Good afternoon, everyone, and welcome to the Managing Your Money in Canada workshop presented by the Canadian Foundation for Economic Education and IG Wealth Management. We're just going to let a few more people come in through the lobby area, and then we will begin very shortly with a video from IG Wealth Management. So we'll just wait for just a few more moments before we begin playing that video. Okay, Greg, I think we should probably launch the video.
Okay. All right, so I'm just going to play a quick little video for everybody, and then we'll get into everything.
I was 15 years old when I became a senior barber.
When you come to a new country, even the smallest things are scary.
Anything is possible when you have confidence.
I wish they taught stuff like this at school.
Financial confidence is important because it means that my children have a future.
Having my own company gives me the freedom to have my own vision.
I'm Janet McLeod.
I'm Edouard Albert Archer.
My name is Keegan Starlight.
My name is Roman Mironov, and there's no limits to what I can do.
So that's great. That's a brief little video from our funder for this particular project, IG Wealth Management. Again, my name is Kevin Maynard. I'm with the Canadian Foundation for Economic Education, and I'm delighted to be presenting to you this afternoon our workshop for seniors called Managing Your Money in Canada. So just give me one moment. So our agenda this afternoon is fairly brief and fairly straightforward. This workshop is intended to provide you with some resources that will help you to empower your tomorrow. It is a workshop that's based on work that we have done over the last 5 years, based on in-person workshops that were originally initiated in 2015. Since the pandemic, we've launched the workshops in a different format, using Zoom so that we can virtually go into your own homes and help you think about the life events that you're going to be faced with and the money matters, the money decisions, the money events that you'll be challenged with in the remaining parts of your journey here on this earth. I am the Vice President and Chief Operating Officer for the Foundation. And I do deliver workshops to seniors across this country, educators, parents, and youth. So I'm delighted to be here today. Assisting us in today's workshop from IG Wealth Management is Susie Graham. So Susie, can you say a few words about yourself?
Yes, thank you, Kevin. I'm pleased to be here today. I'm a certified financial planner with IG Wealth Management. I'm a retirement income specialist. I've been doing this for 21 years now. I help my clients to grow their wealth and protect their wealth and leave a legacy for their loved ones, all through the financial planning that I do and the many tax saving strategies that are available. I'm thrilled about our partnership with Canadian Foundation for Economic Education. They are such an amazing resource, as you'll see on the workshop today. And personally, I live in Oakville, Ontario with my 2 teenage boys. One has recently started college and the other has started high school this year. So he's just started grade 9. And I'll be here to answer any questions that you may have at the end. Being a certified financial planner and a retirement income specialist, this is my area of expertise. So I'm happy to be here as a resource for everyone in the workshop today. And I'm going to turn it over to Greg now, who just has a few comments, a few housekeeping items for us today. Thank you so much.
Thanks very much, Susie. As she mentioned, my name is Greg, and I'm the marketing manager with the Canadian Foundation for Economic Education. I do a lot of our marketing and social media, and sort of do the behind the scenes stuff on the technology front. So things like our Zoom workshops and whatnot. So I just wanted to go over a few things today here before we get started. I'll be assisting Kevin and Susie, mostly in the background. So Kevin's going to go over a number of topics here today, but if there's anything specific that he doesn't touch on, or that you don't get the full answer you're looking for on, we want these workshops to provide as much value as we can to everybody. So we absolutely encourage you to ask questions. We will have a dedicated question and answer period at the end of the workshop. However, if you have any questions during, you're welcome to send them along, and I'll do my best to sort of pass them along to Kevin and Susie during the workshop itself. The best way to ask questions is down at the bottom of your screen in the black menu bar. You should see a little Q&A button. If you click on that, you'll be able to type a question in, and that allows us to really track the questions in the back end and make sure, track which ones have been answered, which ones haven't, and make sure that we get to yours. You can also use the chat button down there to ask a quick question if you like, if that's easier for yourself. Further to that chat button, we absolutely encourage everybody to get involved. We want this workshop to be interactive and engaging. If Kevin's sharing something that really resonates with you, or you've gone through a similar experience, or you want to share something, feel free to use that chat button, and you'll see a little box come up that you can type in. Technical issues, if you're having technical issues, Zoom isn't operating as you expect it should be, or something's not working properly, you can use that chat button again to send a message to myself. Again, my name's Greg, and I will work with you to get whatever issue you're having sorted out. Now, during the workshop today, you should see Kevin's shared screen on the screen, along with his little window speaking. So you should see both of those windows on your screen. If you're not, for whatever reason, you can go to the top of your screen under View Options and select the side-by-side option, and that should ensure you have both of those windows on your screen at all times. In the reminder email that you would have received about an hour before this workshop began, and we're going to include it again tomorrow in the follow-up email, is a list of all the resources and websites that Kevin covers during the workshop. So you're welcome to take notes, but don't feel like you have to write down every single resource or website that Kevin shows today, because we'll be supplying those to you. Again, if you visit the reminder email you would have received at about an hour ago, it will have that link in there. And finally, we're going to do a couple polls during the workshop today. So when those pop up on your screen, we'd love it if you'd take a couple moments and just let us know which answers pertain most to yourself. That just allows Kevin to tailor the workshop a little more based on those responses. And actually, one more thing is that there will be a survey launched at the very end of the workshop as well. And again, if you could take a moment and just provide feedback, it really helps us improve these workshops going forward, and just get a better understanding of the things we're doing well and the things that we can improve on. And we do have a draw for $100 that everybody who does answer the survey, they're automatically entered into a draw for $100. So a little bit extra incentive to take part in the survey. So I'm going to pass it over to Kevin. I'm going to remove myself and Susie from the screen, but we're still here for questions and help. And then I'm going to add us back in at the very end.
Well, thank you, Greg. So again, we have a fast-paced agenda to go through. What I wanted to address at the very beginning is what is financial literacy? And from our perspective at the Canadian Foundation for Economic Education, financial literacy is taking the knowledge that one has, so the knowledge that one has gained throughout your years of experience, and using that knowledge to help you make decisions confidently and with competence. So make decisions and feel good about the decisions that you make, and having those decisions made that have a positive impact on your life. So financial literacy is not just about knowledge. It's about taking that knowledge and using it very effectively to help make your decisions as you go through different stages in your life here on this earth. Now, if you want to think back to when you were very little, one of the things that I like to remind people of are the lessons that we learn. So you may have remembered your mother, it's usually your mother that would have said, do not touch the stove, it's hot. And what did most of us do? Well, we touched the stove and we got burned. It was hot. And if you're like me, you probably did it 2 or 3 times. The point with that little story is that over our lives, we learn things. And if we think about those things and apply those lessons that we learn to future decisions that we have to make, it provides us with a bit of a guiding light, if you will, or wisdom that we can use as we go forward. I used to say to my mother, managing money is not rocket science. It's about taking the lessons that we learned, and Mom, the lessons that you taught me, and having me apply those lessons to decisions I have to make around money in the future. So financial literacy is really important. It's important for little kids. It's important as we grow up. It's important for senior citizens. And from my perspective, senior citizens have the advantage of the wisdom that we've generated over time. Even if you're a junior senior like me, you've had an opportunity to gain wisdom over time as you've experienced different life events. And the real key is reflecting back on that knowledge that you have and applying that knowledge for the future decisions that you'll make, or finding out where you need to learn a little bit more, going out, researching, getting questions answered around certain things that you don't know about, and then applying that knowledge that you have going forward. So it's not just about looking at the numbers. It's about taking the knowledge that you have and applying it going forward. It's also about realizing that as we go through life, we'll have different life events that will impact the decisions that we make. So those life events are very, very important. So I'm going to spend a fair bit of time today talking about those life events. As Greg mentioned, we've already provided a list of additional resources that will help you to reflect back on today's workshop and apply the lessons that you learn after today's workshop. Again, at the end of today's session, so approximately 2 p.m. Eastern Standard Time, we will do a Q&A for about 30 minutes with myself, Susie, and Greg. And that will have an opportunity for you to ask specific questions. So again, looking forward to today's workshop. So Greg, if we could launch the first poll, please tell us a little bit about yourself.
So there's the first poll up on the screen. Hopefully everybody should see it. So again, if you can just read through the responses and let us know which pertain most to yourself. So for this one, you can actually select more than one response if there's multiple things that pertain to yourself. And just to note that these are completely anonymous. We can't see who is answering what. It just shows us the number of people who are answering for each response. So lots of responses coming in here. Just going to give it a few more moments just to make sure everybody has an opportunity to get their answers in. And then we'll end the poll and share the results with you. So I see a few more coming in here. Again, we'll just give it a couple more seconds just to make sure most people have had an opportunity. All right, let's end this. And there are the results.
So great. Thank you, Greg, and thank everyone who participated in our first poll. So it's very interesting to see the distribution of age of the people that are on today's workshop. So you can see there's about a third, 31% are what I call junior seniors. So, and the people in the category from 55 to 59. So you're like my age. So I'm 58 years old. My mom used to say, you know, you're just at that age now where you can take advantage. If you ever have the opportunity to go to Florida, you have that opportunity perhaps to order the senior special for lunch. About a third are junior seniors. Approximately 25% are the next category up to 64. Again, a large proportion, almost 33%, almost a third are 65 to 69. And then a smaller percentage are 70 and over. So again, a small portion, about a third, are what I would call junior seniors. The rest are people that are likely in full-fledged retirement, perhaps drawing on pensions, etc. In terms of who you are and how you live, very interesting to see the breakdown there. So approximately 2/3 live with your significant other. So a partner in life, perhaps a partner in life that you've had from a very young age. I know one of the reasons I like doing these workshops is I reflect back on my mother and father who were married 65 years before my father passed. So they gathered a lot of strength and wisdom and life experience together as a couple. But as they were challenged by life events once my father died, my mother had to make different decisions around her financial matters. And her life changed dramatically once my father died. And I'll speak about that in a few moments. So about 2/3 are living with your significant other. About 10% are a widow. I myself am a widower. So I've had to experience the challenge that comes with living with someone with a terminal illness and then dealing with death with my loved one. So about 10% of you are widowers. A little over 2/3 are collecting CPP and OAS and GIS. And again, that's fairly proportionate to the age of people on today's workshop. So about a third are collecting government pensions. A large percentage of you are living in your own detached home. Now, whether you own it or you rent it, I can't really tell from our poll, but well over 3/4 of you are living independently. And I think that's really important. And about 3% of you are living in assisted housing, which could be assisted housing from a financial perspective, or assisted housing where you're actually receiving assistance from a physical standpoint. Perhaps someone who may be cooking your meals, helping you clean, helping you housekeep, those kinds of things. So again, a very diverse group, but one that is representative, quite frankly, of the Canadian population. So very good. Thank you, Greg. And I just have to. We'll launch the second poll. So if you're thinking about money, what is the first things that comes to your mind? Greg, if you could launch the second poll.
All right, so same thing. We'll just give you a few seconds here to read through the responses and let us know which of these pertain most to yourself. So again, this is another instance where you can select more than one response if there's a couple things that pertain to yourself. And again, this is completely anonymous. We don't see who is responding to what, just the number of responses that come in. So lots of responses coming in again. Great to see so many people taking part in the poll. Thank you very much. We're just going to give it a few more seconds here so everybody has an opportunity to get their responses in. We've got a couple last votes coming in, so we'll just give it 1 or 2 more seconds here. And that looks like that's most people. And so I'm going to end the poll and I'm going to share the results with everybody here.
So great. Thank you, Greg. And again, your responses help us to direct the content for the remaining part of today's workshop. So again, almost half of you are concerned about having too little income to live the kind of life that you want in your retirement years. So not enough savings for your retirement, again, almost half. Trying to deal with the fact that your expenses that you're either currently experiencing or perhaps worried about in the future are going to be too high. So about 30% are there. And again, the next question or response around outliving your savings is a very similar concern. About 60% of you are worried that you're not going to have enough money in your later years to accommodate the lifestyle that you want. About 22%, almost a quarter, are worried about not having a legacy to leave for loved ones. And again, leaving a legacy is a concern that many Canadians have. You may have a large family, you may have inherited items, material goods that you've had, and you want to keep those in your family. You might want to be able to provide a financial nest egg for those that you love so that they can accomplish their specific goals and objectives over time. Almost half of you feel that you pay too much tax and you're worried about paying tax as you complete the rest of your life, or pay too much tax for those that have to carry on your legacy. I often joke that my goal is to reduce the amount of tax that I pay over time so that upon my death, I have no assets and owe no one, particularly no one in Toronto. So I live here in Ontario, so no one at the provincial government here or no one in Ottawa have any taxes to collect from me. So that's my objective. I don't want to pay any tax. So paying too much tax is often a concern. And related to having those assets or wealth or savings accumulated over time, one of our concerns, particularly now, is poor returns on our investments. And I think equally around the poor returns on investments is our concern about risk and certain investments that we have that may carry more risk. So we can talk about those things as you think about the rest of the workshop and as we get into the Q&A. Those are all very, very important pieces. So thank you, Greg. I am going to try and continue and just give me one more moment. So in order to reflect back on those things that concern us when we deal with money, one of the things we can think about are what are the goals that we have in life? What are the wishes or the dreams or the aspirations that we have in the remaining part of our lives? One of the things that I try to encourage anyone that I speak to is to think about those goals and objectives that you might have this year. And this year, in terms of a time frame, might be, December 3rd. By December 3rd, 2020, what is it that you want to have? What is it you want to see? What is it you want to do? What do you want to be by December 3rd, 2020? So this year, what is a short-term goal that you might have? For most seniors, I ask you to think about what that goal or objective might be 3 years from now, and then again 5 years from now. One of the key things is to think about it in terms of a progression of time and how your body, your mind, and your physical abilities might change over time. So what is the environment that you're going to be existing in? What is your ability going to look like 1 year from now, 3 years from now, 5 years from now? And how does that affect what your goals and dreams are? One of the best activities I can suggest you do is to, on a little piece of paper right now, is to write down a specific goal that you might have for 1 year from now, another goal for 3 years from now, and another goal for 5 years from now. Just very quickly write down those three things: a goal for 1 year from now, 3 years from now, and 5 years from now. It can be something you want to be, something you want to do, or something you want to have. And I'll give you an example. One of the easiest ones is by December 3rd, 2020, I want to have all of my Christmas presents bought and wrapped. So that's a specific goal that's short term. A 5-year goal might be, I want to have my house sold, everything packed up that I want to take. I want to have a new condominium apartment bought, and I want to have a mover secured so that I can move from my current home, take those downsized items that I have that I want to take with me into my new condo. So that'd be a goal for 5 years from now. Again, so take that piece of paper, write down a goal for 1 year from now, 3 years from now, and 5 years from now. Write it down on a piece of paper. Think a little bit. If you have to do some research, you can do that later, but estimate the dollar value for each one of those goals. And then put a specific date beside the date you want to accomplish that particular goal. Research has shown that if you actually not only think about a goal, but actually write it down, you are more likely to actually accomplish that goal. It changes from being a wish or a dream to a real activity with a start period and an end period. So again, you're far more likely to achieve your goal if in fact you write it down. So I would like to encourage you to write it down. In terms of setting goals and reaching them, there's some really great advice I can give you. The first is, again, to write it down. Do that research that's required to estimate how much it will cost you. And again, write it down. Put it on a calendar date for the date, the time of year that you want to actually accomplish that goal. In terms of actually reaching a goal, there's some things that you need to know. You're going to need to know how much money you have coming in. So your current income. So how much money do you have currently coming in? How much can you save between the income you have coming in and your expenses? How much can you save? Are you going to have that reserve of cash available? Do you save first and then spend what's left? Or do you actually force yourself to save a certain amount at the end of each month? And is your income going to change over time? So that income story, what you have coming in, is going to be very important that you understand what that is 1 year from now, 3 years from now, and 5 years from now. Similarly, you're going to have to understand where your money is going. What are your expenses looking like? Can you cut back? Can you reduce any of your expenses? Will your life changes and the life events that you're going to be faced with, will they change over time as well? What are your expenses going to look like 1 year from now, 3 years from now, and 5 years from now? One of the things that I encourage people to do is to think about their family and some of the, I'll call it gene pool that you may have inherited. In my family, for example, my father was very, very mentally strong, but toward the end of his life, he had a lot of health conditions. My mother, on the other hand, had very good physical conditions in terms of her body, but her cognitive and mental skills declined as she aged. She eventually developed early onset Alzheimer's and dementia, and that affected her ability to live in certain ways. So again, you need to be aware of how your life, how your body, your cognitive skills, your mental skills, your emotional, your spiritual levels are going to change as you age. And you have to be realistic about it. Number 4 here is around building a budget and sticking to it. One of the things that we develop with time is our ability to manage our personal affairs. For the most part, we're very good at understanding how much money comes in and how much money goes out. We're very good at budgeting things. We're very good at estimating what things will cost. So you need to take that knowledge and that skill set that you developed over time and apply it for going forward in your life. Again, I always look at 1 year from now, 3 years from now, and 5 years from now, and try and do some projections using budgets to do that. So again, very important that if you can not only set a goal, but write down what's involved in that goal and use your knowledge and experience to help you actually achieve or reach your goal, you will be far more successful in your life. In terms of income, it's really important to think about the various components of income then, because that's part of what will determine where we go. And in terms of income, it could be Canada's public pension system. Again, many of you are in the category where you're in fact either soon going to be collecting CPP, OAS, and GIS, or you already are. You can look at provincial benefits programs. If you were part of an employee pension plan, working for one of the automotive manufacturers or a municipality or a transit commission, or perhaps you were a teacher or a nurse, you may have an employer pension plan that you can draw from. Many of us, particularly my age group, contributed to your own retirement savings plans and have invested your income over time so that you'll have that nest egg in retirement. Others are looking at part-time and temporary work to help supplement those assets that they've set aside for retirement. So again, income comes from a number of different areas. I'm going to concentrate mainly on CPP and OAS in the rest of today's conversation. So for Canada Pension Plan, again, your pension plan eligibility is based on the number of years you've resided here in Canada and how long you've contributed to the pension plan during your working life here in this country. Normally, people start to withdraw at 65, but you can start withdrawing earlier at 60. You'll have a reduced amount that you'll be eligible for, or some will withdraw it after the age of 65, which means your monthly pension payments will be above the average. My recommendation for you, if you have not yet begun withdrawing from CPP, that you call Service Canada. They're one of the best government departments to get accurate information about your eligibility and what your payments will be from the Canada Pension Plan. Again, you can make a choice based on what your goals are about when you want to start participating in Canada Pension Plan. Again, the average pension in 2019 was $680 based on the amount of time that a particular individual contributed to the plan and how long they've been in Canada. The maximum amount that you could get for CPP in 2019 was slightly over $1,150. Again, so you should find out from Canada Pension Plan. If you don't already know, you should find out by calling them and see what your pension plan amounts would be. The other thing that I'd like to tell you is that if your spouse, your significant other worked here in Canada, they would have contributed to the CPP. And if they pass before you, you will be eligible for a survivor's pension from your spouse or spousal equivalent. So for example, when my partner passed, even though he died at the age of 42, I became eligible for a survivor's pension. So currently I receive approximately $575 a month as a survivor's pension from his CPP contributions. So it's really important to know that Canada Pension Plan provides that support for not only us as individuals based on our contributions, but if your spouse or spousal equivalent contributed to the plan, you're also eligible for them for their portion if they in fact pass before you. The other piece that I'd like to point out to you would be the death benefit. A death benefit is something provided by CPP, again, based on the amount of time and contribution from the worker you would be eligible for a survivor's pension for that loved one that passes, your spouse or spousal equivalent. The average for that is $2,300. The maximum is $2,500. That death benefit is not enough to bury your loved one, but it certainly helps to offset some of the expenses of a funeral, cremation, etc. Again, those are the key things that I wanted to bring to your attention about the Canada Pension Plan. If you'd like to learn more about the Canada Pension Plan, again, my recommendation is to contact Service Canada, or you can play some videos. You can go on YouTube or Google. There's a really good little video from Karen Chang that talks about retirement income in Canada. Again, it's one that I quite like, so I would recommend that you take a look at it. Or you can speak with someone from your local bank or credit union, or if you actually have a wealth management advisor, you can speak with them. Again, a lot of resources out there. The old age security pension is an addition to the Canada Pension Plan. Normally, the aspect that most people have is called the guaranteed income supplement, which is for low income Canadians. Again, generally, people receive OAS beginning at age 65, or you can defer it if you wish. Again, recommend that you contact Service Canada for further details. I'm just going to move right along here. In terms of the CPP Survivors Pension, I mentioned if your loved one passes before you do, if they're under 64, you'll receive a lower amount based on their age when they pass. You can, as I mentioned, you can get it for a very young spouse that passes. My spouse was 42, so I received a portion of what he would have received that was reduced according to his age. One of the other places that a lot of seniors look for in terms of supplements to their income is part-time or temporary work. My recommendation is that unless you actually need the additional supports, I would recommend that you not look at part-time or temporary work, because the part-time or temporary work that you participate in will pay you a wage, and you will be taxed on that wage. You may also have your benefits clawed back, taken back from you based on any income that you generate from part-time or temporary work. If you crave the ability to share your knowledge, maybe be out and about by working, but don't need the funds, I would suggest volunteering. One of the other places to look for income supports would be provincial benefits that you might be eligible for. There's a really great resource called the Benefits Finder. Again, it's in the resource list that we provided. And so what I did is I went online, and I'm going to show you a couple of the results. So I went online based on myself, my age, 58, the fact that I live in Ontario. I put in some information into the Benefits Finder. I talked about the fact that I do live with a physical disability. It can be something as little as the fact that I require eyewear and I have arthritis. It could look at things like dental requirements, prescription, et cetera, that I've checked off here. I am currently self-employed, so I put that on the Finder. I've said that I currently have a common law partner who is younger than me at 53 years of age. I put all of that information in. I completed a few little pieces, the fact that I am widowed, that I do own my own home, and I would like to probably make it accessible for some mobility issues I might experience. I am concerned about losing family members that might die because of heart conditions, et cetera. Fill in all of that information and then click continue. And what Benefits Finder does is it lists a variety of different categories of government programs, both nationally from the Government of Canada and provincially for me, because I loaded in Ontario, provincial programs that are broken down into these 7 categories. So you can do it for any province or territory that you live in. You can put in the information, and Benefits Finder will list those resources, those benefits that are available to you from the Government of Canada and your local province. So I've just simply highlighted the health-related programs that are available to me here in Ontario. They include things like a guide, there's an assisted devices program, a thing for colon cancer testing and prevention, etc. And what I did is I simply clicked on the one that said assisted devices. So this talks about one particular program that meets my criteria for living in Ontario. If I was interested in finding out more, I would read this document. Many of the documents that come up, you can actually apply for the particular program on the websites that appear. So again, if I wanted to have an assisted device, perhaps a mobility device to help me navigate around my community, I could do so using the Benefits Finder. Again, a really great tool. You just have to put in a very little bit of information and it gives you the benefits that may assist you not only from an income perspective, but also to reduce your expenses for living in the province or territory that you reside. Now, there are many other things that may help you. For example, here's one, which is a retirement income calculator. So for those of you that are like me, a junior, senior, and you're trying to anticipate what your income might be like in the future, you could use this retirement income calculator that's available from the federal government here in Canada. You can also look at any of your financial institutions usually have on their websites an income calculator that you can use from your own particular bank or credit union. This is the one, again, the Canadian Retirement Income Calculator that's based on a website of the federal government. You simply put in some information based on your date of birth, et cetera, and then it will show you what you're eligible for CPEP, OAS. You have to give it some information about the assets that you might have, retirement savings, et cetera. Again, it gives you that indication, that forward-thinking look around the income that you're going to have, not only next year, but 3 years from now and 5 years from now. A really great opportunity for you to look at what your possibilities are around income. Again, the three pillars that we talk about in terms of Canada's retirement system is old age security. I like to feel that old age security is an additional supplement in addition to CPP. And again, it depends on your age, et cetera. Generally, there are minimums and maximums. The average for GIS, for example, is about $900 a year. Again, you might get an allowance from a spouse that passed prior to you, et cetera. The best way to find out what you're eligible for would be to call Service Canada, and you can get that information from them directly. The other piece is, of course, Canada Pension Plan, the CPP benefit itself. And again, it's dependent on the number of years that you contributed to the plan, the amount in total that you contributed to the plan each year, and the age that you're going to take benefits from the plan. Again, a CPP, OAS, the best place to get that information is from Service Canada. If you in fact decide that you want to collect CPP early, it is reduced by the number of years you take it in advance of 65, and it would be increased if you delay taking CPP after the age of 65. What I want you to think about is what your goal or objective is in terms of collecting government pensions, and think about what's important to you. What has been your life experience? Again, in my life experience, I'm a fairly young man, but I know that there are family health conditions that I may be faced with. That's the first thing. The second thing is I've had an experience where my loved one passed at the age of 42. So for me, I am likely going to take my CPP benefits at the age of 60. Because I'd rather have the ability to access those benefits now rather than wait and not be able to collect the benefits that I'm entitled to because I may not be around. So again, take a look at your own goals and objectives and what your personal situation is. Understand that if you take the CPP or OAS early, what the impact will be on your monthly income levels from that particular benefit. The third sort of pillar of retirement is employer pension plans. And again, those are usually based on particular employers that you were part of. You may be part of a defined pension plan that you get a payout from. You may have an RRSP that you contributed to on your own. It's very important to understand that if you have an RRSP or a defined pension plan, what you're eligible for when you retire. So very important information to gather, because that income side is really important. So in terms of understanding income then, we should all know what our income level is now. So now within the year, what it's going to be like 3 years from now and 5 years from now. And again, you can think about those various sources of income: earning from work, investment returns, government benefits, and any savings that you might have. The other side of the coin is to estimate what your expenses are going to be. So most of you, if I asked you, what do you currently spend your money on, you would be able to tell me what your total amount was on a monthly basis and what the breakdown was. Again, that's the benefit of wisdom that comes with age. The challenge will be to think about your future expenses. And again, I always look at the 1 year window, the 3 year window, the 5 year window, and in some cases, what the 10-year window might be. So understanding that your spending habits are going to change over time and that as you face different life events, the amount of money that you need to spend will change over time as your goals and objectives change and as your life condition changes. Again, try to keep sticking to a budget. Use the wisdom that you had around planning a budget and following it. And even if you change your living conditions, for example, try and identify a budget, identify where you actually are able to stick with a budget, where you may need to make some changes, because your income and expenses are in fact going to change over time. What I'd like you to think a lot about is a goal that you have, something you want to do, something you want to be, or something you want to have. And I talked about it a little bit earlier. You should think about it 1 year, 3 years out, and 5 years out. If in fact you really want a goal and you don't have a lot of income, you can still achieve a goal by reducing your expenses. And I'm just going to give you an example. I like to drink Tim Hortons tea, but if I instead make my own tea at home and don't buy Tim Hortons steep tea, I can save about $9 a week. I also like little treats. So I like the little bags of potato chips. That's about $2 a week. Over the course of the year, if I eliminate those things, I'll save about $572. So you're going to want to think about what you can do to make your money go further in terms of at home food that you buy, at the bank by reducing service charges, maybe by paying off all of your credit cards, not paying any credit card interest, etc. Maybe by eliminating your mortgage, by selling your house, taking the equity out of your house and moving into an apartment, or reducing your asset by moving from a 4-bedroom home to a condominium. So again, think about ways that you can reduce your expenses. Or maybe you have a car right now, but you don't drive it very often. Maybe what you might want to look at is taking a ride-sharing program like Uber or Lyft or public transit. Again, some ways that you can reduce your expenses over time. One of the things I like to encourage you to do is take a piece of paper and write 5 things down that you can either eliminate or reduce in terms of your current expenses. Always keep in your mind the goals and values, those things that are important to you. I mean, I like red wine, so I always would want to be able to afford my 1 bottle of red wine. But maybe what I'll do is I'll buy a lower cost red wine, like an Argento or something from Argentina, rather than a fine French wine. Again, some ways to think about reducing expenses. Always consider healthy lifestyles and think about reducing, eliminating, or replacing the things that bring a smile to your face, as well as putting a roof over your head and food in your belly. In terms of life events, there's many life events that we're going to be faced with, and I'm going to jump fairly quickly to focus on those that I think are most important for seniors. Most of you would have been already involved in planning your retirement. So again, reflect back on the goals and values that you have in your life now and that you think are important for you going forward 1 year from now, 3 years from now, and 5 years from now. You should be really very realistic in terms of your health, your finances, and your well-being. And I encourage you to develop that plan, that vision for what you want to achieve. It has to be based on goals first. And you should seek credible and trusted assistance in terms of developing that financial plan. Speak with those individuals that you trust, your local banker, a certified financial planner, someone who has the credibility to guide you in the right direction. There are many things that you can do to help you in terms of planning for retirement. There's a really good retirement quiz offered by the Ontario Securities Commission. And again, I put this particular quiz in the resource list that Greg shared with you. The next piece I'd like to chat with you about is converting savings into income. This is really important for those of you that are like me and have most of our savings either in an asset like a home or in a registered retirement savings plan like a mutual fund. It's really important that if you have an RRSP that you realize that you must convert that RRSP into a RIF no later than December of the year that you turn 71. And again, we'll talk about this a little bit more in the Q&A session, but you need to think about all of that wealth or asset accumulation that you've had over your working life. How are you now going to convert that into asset that you can withdraw and live on in the remaining portion of your life? I also want to remind you that there are some incredible challenges now with seniors being faced with financial abuse. And so I've listed a few here. The biggest one is being forced to make decisions around your money where it's not something that you want to do. And I would encourage any of you that have experienced any of these conditions to think about it. And if you're at all concerned, contact your local police services and have a discussion with someone at your local police department about the item that you're experiencing or the item that you've observed in terms of someone that you know or love. Often what happens is we're embarrassed by some of these situations. You should be talking with someone from a police service in your local community if, in fact, you consider that you're being abused financially or you've observed it in someone in your circle of friends. Again, don't be embarrassed. Certainly reach out so that you can feel confident that you're not being abused. There are some really great videos around fraud and financial abuse. We have one. Again, I suggest you Google something called Money Laughs. There are 10 little videos that we've done with the Just for Laughs comedy troupe that you can take a look at. There's some really great lessons to be learned through these particular little videos that we've played. Again, they all relate to fraud and fraudulent activity that we all are faced with, but that are very prevalent in terms of seniors and older adults. In terms of our accommodation, and our housing needs may change over time. So one of the things that you may be looking at is renting out part of your home, perhaps having someone from a local post-secondary education institution coming and live with you so that they can help you by providing rent or boarding money. Some of the other things to think about would be selling your home and downsizing, or maybe living with family, having a family member come and live with you, or you going to live with a family member. Some people suggest that if you have an asset like a home, that you might want to look at a reverse mortgage. I would suggest reverse mortgages are very expensive. There are a lot of fees and a high interest rate associated with reverse mortgages. They do have some advantages, but they have a lot of disadvantages. You may instead look at something like a home equity line of credit or other options that you may consider, like even a personal loan that's secured against your home. Again, if you have a particular goal or objective that you have in mind, you should look at options around an asset that you have, like a home. Some incredible opportunities, but some incredible risks as well. In terms of retirement communities, you need to know that there are two basic types of living that you can have. One is a retirement home, where you would have your own unit and maybe a restaurant that you could go down for meals. But most of what you do in your everyday life, you look after yourself. So bathing yourself, perhaps walking down to the restaurant for your meals. You may even have your own little kitchenette in your suite. The other type of arrangement is something called assisted living. And in assisted living, it can range from very little assistance to a high level of assistance. So you may have someone that can help you bathe. You may have someone to cook your meals, or to actually porter you down in a wheelchair down to eat with others in your community. As some people age, their physical and cognitive abilities decline, and maybe they won't be able to feed themselves. So assisted living may be an option that you could consider. You may be able to get assisted living within the home that you currently live in. So people coming in from outside to provide you with those various levels of assistance, rather than having to have you move out of your home into another. So again, a lot of opportunities. In your resource list that we've provided with you, we've included a senior's guide for every province and territory that has these particular resources that are appropriate for housing. Again, in Ontario, it's section 5 of the Ontario Seniors Guide. Every province and territorial jurisdiction is provided in the resource list that we've given you. In terms of our lives, we all know that either ourselves or those that we love are eventually going to come down with illnesses and disabilities. What I've tried to do here is list a couple of resources that may be of importance to you. The first is your physician. Your physician is very important. They will help to refer you to other assistance as you're dealing with your own illness or disability, or for illness and disability of those that you love. They'll also provide some supports in terms of caregiving for those particular individuals. There's a really great resource. It's called the Self-Guide for Caregivers. Again, I've given you the link for this particular little pamphlet. It helps for those of you that will be providing caregiving support. It helps to provide some guidance in that area. It's important to know that we have choices in terms of our goals and objectives. The best way to ensure that your goals or objectives for your health and your wealth are maintained is to ensure that you have a power of attorney that is appointed by you. If you do not choose a power of attorney appointed by you, and you lose your ability to make decisions, that ability will be appointed by the courts. So again, I want you to think about the goals and objectives that you have. One of the things I like to encourage people to do is to think about the 5 things that are important in terms of their health, and 5 things that are important in terms of their wealth. There is a power of attorney for health and a power of attorney for wealth. So if you identify those 5 things of each that are important to you and write them down, that'll give you something you can have a conversation with one of 3 people that you could consider to be your power of attorney for health or wealth. Once you identify the 3 people, you can go have that conversation and then go see a lawyer so that you can get it drawn up. And I do recommend that you get your power of attorney done at the same time that you get a will. We know that most Canadians die without a will. A will names what your objectives are, your goals are for the wealth that you've accumulated, and upon death, what you want to have happen with it. So it's really important that you get a will done. It will name an executor. That executor will ensure that your goals and objectives in terms of your life are maintained once you die. A power of attorney is until you take your last breath. So it's really important to get a will done. And that will also help you to plan your estate, etc. Again, I recommend you engage that lawyer to help you do both your power of attorney documents and your will. The will name your executor. And again, I recommend that you identify 5 things that are really important to you. You try to identify 3 people who could be your executor, and then you have that discussion with your lawyer so that you get an executor who's named in your will. So we're done now. So I would like to ask Greg to complete today's session, and then we'll turn over into the Q&A session for the remaining 30 minutes.
Thanks, Kevin. So I am just going to add myself and Susie back here while we get going with the Q&A section. So there's Susie. She's just, her audio and video is back on now. So again, going back to the beginning of the workshop, we now encourage anybody, if they have any questions further to you know, what Kevin's covered in the workshop here today, you can ask those using the Q&A button down in your bottom menu bar along the bottom of your Zoom window, or you can also use the chat button there. Q&A just allows us to track things in the back end a little better, but either one will work. So so I'm sure a couple people will continue to submit questions, but we have some in the meantime that I'd like to put forward to both Kevin and Susie. So Kevin, when we ran one of the initial polls, I know one of the themes and the responses was people being worried or aware of maybe not having enough money for retirement and for long-term care down the road and whatnot. So I have a question about, you know, someone has said they feel like they left things too late in order to plan for retirement and are now wondering, you know, in the situation they're in now, what's the best way to go about, you know, addressing that? How can they still save? How can they still plan for their retirement, getting a late start on it?
Well, and I'll begin, and I know that Susie will have some additional comments, but I'll give you an example. So at the age of 50, my partner was 42 when he was diagnosed with stage 4 melanoma, and he died in 9 months. So even for me at that stage in my life, I had planned a retirement that was much different in terms of my plans than what I thought it was going to be. I never thought I'd have to think about things like death, et cetera, that early. So I would say it's never too late. That's the first thing. It's never too late. I think the second thing is, it's not only is it never too late, but you should find out now about those things that are most immediate. So, you know, even things like identifying 2 or 3 retirement homes or long-term care facilities, or if there's a service that provides personal support work or nursing to come into your home, identify what those things are. What are the options available to in your community, and how much might each of those options cost you to provide care or a lifestyle that you want to lead? So it's never too late, and you have to start now. So as long as you just start, you'll get more information that will help you. So that's how I would begin that conversation. Susie?
I agree 100% with everything you said, Kevin. Like, the best day to start is today. If you haven't already, there's never going to be a better day to start than today, right now. So talk to your financial planner, have a full financial plan completed, which will include an estate plan. And if you don't have a financial planner, you know, you can reach out. There's many resources available, or you could even, you know, start at your bank, for example, and just get a full financial plan started. You'll get a full snapshot of where you are today. So it'll show today, like, if you do nothing, you know, this is how it looks. Or like in my financial plans, I recommend, you know, these are the strategies that we can implement now to get you to your plan. But if you haven't started yet, I urge you to start today.
And again, I started the conversation with that whole section on goals. So think about what is important to you. Write down those things. And again, 1 year, 3 years, and 5 years, write those things down. And then that will help you to plan. Because if you go to your local banker, you know, the person responsible for providing advice around retirement, or to a certified financial planner or wealth management specialist, that's the first thing they're going to ask you. What are your goals? That's the first thing. The second thing is they might ask you a little bit about your situation. So understanding what money you currently have coming in, the assets that you have, and what are your expenses. So they are going to ask you those things to help direct you. They're not going to give you a cookie cutter response. It'll be a response that's tailored to your specific wants, needs, realities, and most importantly, what you want. Not what they want, what you want. That's the real beauty of our system, where you have a competitive situation. You can go to whoever you want to give you advice, but if you rely on someone who's been trained and who is credible, that's where they will start. What are your goals? What is your situation? And then build it from there.
Yeah, absolutely. It's important to make sure that the person's a certified financial planner. And like Kevin said, determine your short-term goals, your long-term goals. And then the next conversation you would have with your financial planner would be about your risk tolerance, we call it, but basically your comfort level with volatility in the markets. So if you can't sleep at night, if there's any volatility, then that's a conversation that would be had as well. So determining your goals and also your comfort level with investing, just to determine the right type of investment for you.
Great.
Thank you very much, guys. Those are great responses. So the next question we have here is, someone is asking, should I take my money out of my RRSP and put it in my TFSA? I'm on CPP and OAS.
So again, it does depend on your particular circumstance. Part of that is your age and your income level and your tax level. So for example, for many low-income Canadians, the best place now to put their funds in terms of taxation is in a TFSA. So even for seniors that have the room in a tax-free savings account, that's where you should put any surplus savings, because you're not going to be taxed at that at any rate. Within the TFSA, you can invest that money in different ways so that it has different levels of risk as well. But it does depend on again, your particular circumstance. Part of that being what is your income level and your tax rate. For many people, many seniors, they have to withdraw a certain percentage, and it's a fixed amount every month from their RIF. So once you turn the age of 71, you have to start withdrawing money that you've accumulated, and you have a minimum amount that you have to withdraw every year. If you have surplus funds that you don't need from those withdrawals, one of the best places to put that surplus fund is in a TFSA. That's one example of how your individual circumstance matters in terms of what you do with your money. But Susie, do you have some particular examples that you can offer?
Yeah, absolutely. Again, it all comes back to like a financial plan, because part of the financial plan is a withdrawal strategy. So without knowing like this person, how much is in their RRSP, what age they are now, we would have a conversation about life expectancy and what is their current income level, because in the financial plan, we would look at what marginal tax rate you're in now and how much extra room perhaps you have until you get into that next tax bracket. But a withdrawal strategy is one of the main components of a financial plan. So yeah, I would definitely recommend you start today and get that financial plan prepared, because it's hard to just give a number or a yes or no, because everybody's situation is unique. So it's really about looking at your own personal numbers and getting your own plan completed.
If I could also add that many of us, if not everyone, is concerned about physical distancing, social distancing, and accessing trusted information. All financial institutions and wealth management people, including certified financial planners, are able to do almost everything now virtually. So you're able to have a conversation that is safe and secure with someone who is trusted and credible about these particular things. So even during the pandemic, I would encourage you to ask these questions, particularly now, because of the volatility that we're all experiencing in terms of the assets we've accumulated over time, and our safety and security. So those two things combined means that we've had to adjust. And I will tell you that the financial systems that we have in this country have adjusted quite well to the conditions that we're faced with now.
Yeah, that's a great point there, Kevin, too, because when I just think of my own business, because I used to be on the road all day, going from house to house to house, seeing all of my clients at their home or at their office, and I'm technologically challenged. So it was a bit of a bumpy road initially for the first few weeks, but now everything's either over Zoom or Microsoft Teams. Forms can be digitally signed. So I'm in my house, in my office, and basically 100%, functional. So yeah, anybody can, from the safety of their own home, get an appointment with the person that they choose. Absolutely.
And I will add that even if you don't want to use technology, you can still do it the old way. So that's also important. Those of you that want to go to your local financial institution, you can still do so, or you can do things through the mail as well. So there are ways that you can do things without having to rely totally on technology.
Absolutely.
Thank you very much, guys. That's great. We have another one here. It says, what guidance can you give those who sponsor their parents within the Canadian immigration system, age 65 years and over, who will not be getting any guaranteed income for at least 20 years? Are there resources, excuse me, are there resources to look into for investments that bring some sort of monthly returns for these seniors?
So that is there are two balls that you're talking about there. So one is what I would call eligibility for government benefits federally and provincially. So it does depend on all of the circumstances around that individual who immigrates to this country and when. So they're likely not going to be eligible for much from most of the benefits programs that exist. That being said, the second part of your conversation or your question was around investments that would be safe and secure with different levels of risk tolerance. So I think, Susie, that's probably a good one for you to talk about.
Yeah, absolutely. There's all different types of investments for every comfort level, every safety level. There is what we call just like cash, like in the tax-free savings, for example, you can invest just in cash, but it's a lower rate of return. However, there's no volatility. So like I mentioned before, if someone can't sleep at night, so for the safety, there are also guaranteed investment certificates, so GICs. Those you're locked in for a year or 2 or 5 or however long you determine. And the longer you lock in, the higher your rate. But I say higher, but I mean, they're all like around the 1% or so range right now. It's very low. And then with mutual fund portfolios, we've got from the most conservative to the most aggressive, and then balanced or moderate, kind of right in the middle, which would have about a 60% equity, so 60% stock. But again, that's all part of the initial financial planning conversation, and talking about your goals and how you invest depends on if it's a short-term need or a long-term need. Because if you've got, say, more than 5 years or so until you need this money, then you've got a longer time horizon to be invested. Whereas if you say, I'm using all this money next year to buy a car, well then, mutual funds aren't suitable for you, especially given all the volatility we've had, this year in the market. So yeah, it all starts with the initial conversation about your goals and whether it's short-term or long-term and your comfort level.
I think the other piece that I'll mention is part of what you need to look at if you're looking at someone immigrating from their country of origin to Canada as well is any tax implications of them bringing assets, particularly currency or gold from their country of origin into Canada, and what the tax implications are of that. So it's really important that you check that, because otherwise, when that individual travels to Canada, there are requirements around declaring that amount of currency or other asset that they're bringing to this country, and it will relate to the taxation structure as well. So not only their ability to enter, but taxation related to that asset. So, and that varies depending on the country of origin of the person that's entering. So again, you asked a very loaded question there. So there are two parts that I would suggest. One is sort of the wealth management piece. The second is around immigration and taxation. So, and you can get answers for the immigration through Canada Immigration or Canadian Border Services that have what those amounts are. In terms of taxation, the other place that you should perhaps inquire would be Canada Revenue Agency, which will talk about those levels, as well as tax treaties that might exist with the country of origin that the person is emanating from.
Thank you very much. We have another one here. This person says, I live on my own. Upon my passing, my principal home will be willed to my children. Will there be any taxes imposed when they sell the home?
Okay, I'm just going to begin. So provided that there is in fact a will in place that is properly executed, that will determine what happens in terms of your children. And I will also tell you that there may be some variance depending on the province or territory that you exist, that you exist in. If it's a beneficiary of a portion of the proceeds, what will happen is when you pass, the estate will sell the asset and then distribute the asset in terms of funds to the beneficiaries. My understanding is that those beneficiaries will not pay capital gains on the amount that they inherit. That's my understanding. Susie, is yours the same?
Yes, absolutely. In Canada, like every Canadian is allowed to have one property that is their principal residence, which passes tax-free. So as long as that's your only property, if there's another cottage, if there's a cottage or whatnot, you'd have to deem this as your principal residence. But it will be worth, having a consultation with a lawyer and just making sure that your will is up to date and that all of your wishes will be carried out. So if you haven't had your will, in the last, say, 2 years or so, haven't had your will reviewed, it might be time just to make sure and to put your mind at ease.
You actually raised a good point, Susie, that the idea that you should revisit your will and your power of attorney documents every time there's a change either in your life circumstance or the life circumstance of someone you name. So either a power of attorney or an executor. So anytime there's that kind of a change, and I do suggest you do it at least on an annual basis. Have that revisit, go back to your lawyer, have it looked at, and make sure that it's appropriate for your circumstance.
And I just thought of something on your comment there, Kevin, as well. And are the children living in Canada or in another country that might have different rules or laws? So yeah, definitely 100%. I'd suggest sitting down with a lawyer and just make sure your will is up to date and that all of your wishes will be carried out.
Perfect. Thank you very much, guys. So that's actually it for questions right now. We've managed to make it through all of them, so that's great news. I know sometimes we have a few left over, so it's great that we've been able to get to everybody's questions. So Kevin, I'll throw it back over to you for to sort of close things out.
Thank you, Greg. So again, at the end of today's session, and you will get a reminder that we'll have the resource link with many of the content items that I showed you briefly. I do suggest that you give a lot of thought to the knowledge that you've accumulated over time, that you take that thought or that knowledge or wisdom that you've had, you think about the window of 3. So the first window is 1 year from now, the second window is 3 years from now, and the third window is 5 years from now. and think about the situations that you're going to be faced with as your life events unfold, and as you reflect back on your goals and objectives, to make sure that it's you that drives the path forward, that you're the one that's empowered for your tomorrow. So again, thank you very much for today's workshop. Thank you, Susie, for participating. Thanks, Greg, for the excellent job. Everyone stay safe, stay healthy, and stay happy. Bye for now.
Thanks, everybody.